Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live presentation titled OPC to MQTT. My name is Randy, and I am the presenter today. Let's get going. Again, today's webinar is titled OPC to MQTT. We're going to talk about the problem itself of IoT, OPC, MQTT. We'll talk about the solution. I will actually show an MQTT Spark-Plug-B connection. We'll show a publish and a subscribe. We'll talk about store and forward, bulk item configurations, and how to troubleshoot these IoT messages. At the very end, I will also show you how to get a recording of this webinar and where to download the software. So what we're talking about here is IoT, Internet of Things, using OPC, MQTT, and Spark-Plug-B, doing all of this with Spark-Plug-B. Now, MQTT is a very low bandwidth and very reliable IoT protocol. It's particularly good to bring automation data to the internet. Now, very specifically, when we're talking about MQTT, so I'm not talking necessarily Amazon, and I'm not talking about Azure, very specifically just plain old MQTT, we use Spark-Plug-B. Spark-Plug-B makes MQTT particularly useful for automation. And it makes it very easy to send OPC DA and UA data to the internet. So again, obviously, we're talking about IoT here, taking controller data and bringing it to the internet. The only question is, of course, well, how exactly do you do that? And that's what we'll take a look at here in this presentation. So what we're going to do here is take a controller, bring the data to an MQTT broker, which in our case is actually going to be out on the internet. And I'll show you the IP address and you can actually connect to it too. Now, we're going to use a PC to do that, obviously, and we will go through OPC. So I'll actually show you two OPC servers, not just one, but two. One is OPC DA, OPC Classic, OPC Data Access, whereas the other one is going to be OPC UA. So I'll show you an example of connecting to both. And to do that, we're going to be using OPC Expert to send data to the MQTT broker, which means that the first task is going to be to publish OPC DA and UA data to the internet using MQTT. Now, once it's in this MQTT broker, we'll do a second task, which is we'll have another PC and we'll bring in that data with OPC Expert, where we will subscribe to MQTT data. So we're going to publish the data, and then we're going to subscribe to it separately. This computer here is on the internet. These two computers are actually going to be not on the internet, but if you will, at the plant, in the manufacturing plant, behind firewalls, and we'll see how to get all of that working. Now, the key features we're talking about here is this. Number one, as far as OPC support, we're talking about OPC UA, OPC Classic, so anything OPC you can do here. As far as MQTT support, there's Spark-Plug-B, as I was talking about. There's, of course, support for Microsoft Azure or Amazon AWS. So both of those are supported. As far as the communication support, we're talking about all the security profiles, local, remote servers. If you're talking about OPC Classic, we're talking DCOM, OPC UA, it's TCP/IP, HTTP, HTTPS. All of these are supported. And of course, security for MQTT, TLS, and so on. And you'll take a look at that. I mean, we will see it. And of course, all of this can run as a Windows service, so it can start up without anybody actually being logged on. Now, the architecture is this. So what we're looking at here is everything that's inside OPC Expert. So when you get OPC Expert, and I'll show you what that is, you actually get all these modules inside. So we begin by data acquisition. So we bring in OPC data using OPC DA or UA. So inside it, it's got an OPC DA and UA client. That information goes into what we call an intelligent engine. It does a whole bunch of things with the data. From there, we're going to send data to MQTT. So in this example, we'll have a publisher, and we'll bring in OPC data using DA and UA and send it out to publish it to the internet. We'll also see how to subscribe to this data. So separately, we'll see how to subscribe to this data. Pretty cool stuff. Now, this goes much, much further, because remember, once your data is in this intelligent engine, you can start to send it to Excel, Excel files, I should really say. You can start to send it to Microsoft SQL, XML files, CSV, and so on. So you can do all of that. You can also bring in data using other means, and of course, send data out using other means. So here, for example, you can see an OPC DA server. There's an OPC UA server. There's an Excel, RTD. So all of this, again, all of this, what you're looking at, these aren't separate applications. All of this is actually included right inside OPC Expert. So using this mechanism is how, for example, you can get OPC DA to UA conversion, or OPC DA to MQTT, or MQTT to UA, or DA, or UA to DA. Anyway, I think you get the idea. So you can convert, you can grab data in a whole bunch of different ways, send it to different destinations. So quite easy to do, and I'll show you what's being done here. But with all of this, I want to remind you, first of all of this is included inside OPC Expert, but specifically in this webinar, we're talking about this: OPC UA in, OPC DA in, MQTT out, and also MQTT in. So I'll show you what's going on. Now again, we're going to do task number one, which is we're going to acquire data using OPC and send it out to the internet. And the second thing we're going to do is to subscribe to the data. This is particularly helpful. These two are particularly helpful when you're troubleshooting your applications, even if you have other applications using OPC or using MQTT. OPC Expert is particularly useful when it comes to troubleshooting, which I'll show you. So let's do a little demo here. So what I've done, first of all, is, in fact, let me just go a couple of slides back. Okay, so we have here a PLC. I'll show you the MQTT Broker. In fact, I'll show you this slide here. There we go. So there's the MQTT Broker, and that's actually out on the internet. So that is right here. So if you want, you can actually you can do some research on where this IP address is, and it's actually hosted on Amazon. It's 34.235.202.150. Now over here, the broker we're using is actually called Mosquito. So this is a free broker. You can download it. You can set it up. So there it is right here. You can see it's running right now. So I've got Task Manager up, and you can see it's running right now. I'm going to stop it just so you see there's no cheating here. So there it is. It stopped, and I'm going to start it again. So there we go. There's a process ID. Okay. Next, I'm going to go to this computer right here. And by the way, I have this computer over here. So let's just show both of them. There is a second computer. Just going to make it small, put it over here. There is the first computer. So here we go. So we've got the two computers over here. This computer is this one. This computer is this one. MQTT, which is out on the internet, is this guy right here. Okay. So just before I start, I want to show you when we open OPC Expert, not OPC Expert rather, but just Windows Explorer. There's OPC Expert. So there's nothing to install. OPC Expert does not require installation. It will set up everything. It'll set everything up on its own, and it does not require any changes to Windows Registry. So many of you have audited systems. It's safe to run on these systems. Okay. Now, when I run OPC Expert, it will extract all of the files. So put it in its own little folder. It'll extract all the files. So there it is. I'm running it, and you can see it's extracting the files. It's extracting everything it needs, and it's going to run in the background right away. There it goes. It just started. And there we go. And again, you don't have to install Java Runtime or anything like that. Okay, so there is OPC Expert. What I'll do, open this up. There we go. Now, in here, I've got several OPC servers. The ones in blue are OPC DA. You can see a DA icon here. So the ones in blue are OPC DA. The ones in turquoise are UA. Now, very specifically, I've got, I'm going to use, actually, let's go with OPC DA first. So I'll connect to the simulator, comes from a company called Iconics. I'll go inside this numeric branch, and let me just subscribe to a few items here. So here we go. Good. So I've got a few items that I'm subscribing to. There we go. All right. And just to make sure that you see, I will also subscribe. Let me subscribe over to these guys here. Okay, so we have a few items. I'm not going to subscribe to a whole lot because I don't want to make this a mess. Of course, there's no limitation on the number of items you can subscribe to. And folks, just go ahead, please keep your questions coming. Now, this is OPC DA. I will also subscribe to OPC UA. So there's an OPC UA server, and in here I'll go to data. Now, this OPC UA server, by the way, comes from OPC Foundation. So it's also a free server. So I'll subscribe to this byte value. Let me take an integer. So there we go. I will also take, let me take a string. Okay, so we're seeing a whole bunch of data. I will collapse this just so it's not a mess. Make it a little bigger. Okay, now what I want to show you first are the different data types. So we'll take away the columns that aren't interesting. Quality, everything is looking good. We're getting data here that's changing, so there we go. And we can see a whole bunch of different data types here, whether they come from OPC DA, these guys here, or UA, it doesn't really matter. Okay, now in order to send this data to MQTT, here's all we do. We select all of these items right here, right click, archive, create new archive. Here, of course, there are different places to put all of the data, but we're going to choose MQTT. Next. Now in here, we can see some information. So the computer is going to be this one right here. So that's 34.235.202.150. And I'll actually copy it to the clipboard so I don't have to enter it again. Now, in this case, we need a username and a password. So I'll just show you that. So the username is OPC Expert. And in fact, the username is OPC Expert, but I'm going to make it just OPC EXP. This is wrong because I want to show you what happens when there's a failure. And because I don't know, I didn't realize I made this mistake. So I hit connection. This is very, very important when you're setting up MQTT to test out your connections. And what you see is immediately OPC Expert received a response. So we were able to get to the MQTT server. The client isn't authorized, and it tells us right away, maybe it's a username and password. Okay, fine. So I will put in the right username and the right password. I test this out, and sure enough, so you can see that this is particularly good for troubleshooting. Very often, we just don't know what's wrong with the MQTT server, so we need to test, and it's a very, very good testing tool. Okay, I'll click OK. OPC Expert is going to set up, there it goes, it's setting up the archive. Now, in this case, I'm going to just take off some columns only so that we don't care about the quality. It's all going to be good. I don't care about this. Now this is only so you can see more information. We got limited screen real estate. Okay, and we can see the buffer queue is 0. There's a queue here for storing and forwarding data. Now, what I'll do is I will start this, and OPC Expert sets everything up already. You can see this real-time view. There it goes. And when everything is okay, we're going to see initially X's and then green check marks to say everything is okay. So we are actually getting data right now. We're actually getting data into MQTT. This is the amount of data that's in the buffer. There we go, right here. That's the data that's in the buffer. And we're actually sending all of this data right now to the internet, to here. And to show you what happens, I'm going to let me stop this and watch what happens when I stop the broker. So what I want to show you is there's obviously going to be a failure. You can see that already there's our buffer is increasing. OPC Expert still didn't figure out that there's an actual problem. It's waiting for some timeouts. There, it did that. But all it knows is that the data didn't get through. Now it's declared, I actually have a problem, but still all of the data is kept in here. Notice that this one is 0 because it's a static item. It's not changing. So is this one right here, this guy right here. When I start the server back up, the broker, you can now see, well, I can't see it yet, but there, OPC Expert connected, and it's emptying out the queue. There we go. The queue is all empty. Poof, and we're right back. So it's actually storing the data and forwarding. All right, so now we're publishing the data. Very, very easy to publish the data. And you can pick this data up with anything that's MQTT. So for example, many people are using MQTT FX or MQTT Explorer, and you can do that. And the amount of data you can store is actually just limited by your hard drive. So let's take a look. So right now what we've done is we've taken data from PLC via OPC to OPC Expert, and we're sending it to the broker. So now we're going to take a look at the subscription. So I'll just make this a little bit smaller, just to give us more room. You can see the data is still going through. I'll make this one bigger. There we go. Okay. So in this case, we're going to be subscribing to data from here, from this mosquito. Once again, I'm going to open the file location. You can see there's nothing here. It's just OPC Expert. So when I double click it, it extracts all the files it needs, and it's going to get going. There we go. So you can see all the files are here. No installation needed. All right, now from here, I'm going to right click. Now I got to tell it that there's an OPC server, that there's an MQTT server. Obviously, browsing is not going to work. You better not be able to find this automatically. So we, hang on, this one, sorry, add OPC server, MQTT, next. And there is the computer again. I'll paste this. Remember, I copied it previously. Username, OPC Expert. I'll put in the password. There we go. Now, I just want to show you, let's just make sure I did everything right. Yeah, okay, so this is working. You can see you have a whole bunch of options for labels, for topics. There was the keep alive, a whole bunch of metrics that you can do, network control, quality of service you can control. In any case, all these options are available. We'll click, there's full support for SparkBugB and MQTT. We'll click OK, and there we go. So right now, there is the broker. So we'll open it up, and we're browsing. And sure enough, what we see is, remember, we're publishing from here. There's computer OPC01. That's this computer here. Right now, we are on OPC02. Inside, we see all the data that we subscribe to. So there it is. We can see these are the items we subscribe to. There's a simulation server. In this case, we did 2 different folders. So you can see all of the browsing. There we go. Now to subscribe, I can subscribe to individual items, or in this case, I'll just drag and drop. And there are all of the items that are being published. Now I'll just make this a little bit simpler. OPC. Okay. So we're going to the internet to get this information. So it's coming from here. Don't need this one. Quality is all good. All right. Update rate. And there we go. So we can see the data types. They're all in here. All the data types are coming in. And we're getting all the data. So we're actually getting the data right now from MQTT. Or sorry, using MQTT. And again, just to show you what happens, I'm going to right click and I'll stop this server. And as soon as I do, watch the buffer. So there's the buffer. It's increasing right now. This is the publisher. And of course, the subscriber isn't getting any data. Already, this guy realized it's lost the connection. So does this guy. They both realize they lost their connections. I will now, and you can see that the buffer queue is increasing. Here, I will start. And soon enough, the connection will be good here. This guy will clear out its buffer. This one's already connected. And here comes the data, and you can see, there we go. It's clearing out the buffer. So all of it is being sent to MQTT. Now, one of the very, very cool things, take a look here. Probably didn't notice this. Here's another little application. And what you can see here are all the messages we're actually sending. You can see exactly when they came in. This is using JSON, using protobuf, which is what MQTT is using. This guy has exactly the same thing for the messages it is sending. So these are messages that are received. These are messages sent, received, sent. So you can see the messages that are being sent and the messages that are being sent from here. Obviously, it's a subscriber, so you don't see this increasing. The subscriber is mostly receiving data. So there it goes. And you can see the compression offered by protobuf, which is about 94, 95, 96%, depends on the kind of data you send. And I will pause this here a moment just so you see. There we go. And you can see what a JSON message actually looks like. So this will really help you to troubleshoot your systems. So you can subscribe to a broker and actually see exactly the messages that are being sent by the publisher. We're still receiving data, of course. We just stopped the viewing. And what you can see here, you can see the number of messages is increasing. We're just on message 274. I can resume here. But this is particularly useful for troubleshooting. So you can very easily see all the messages being sent, all the birth certificates, death certificates, all the information you can see. And of course, all the data that's stored, support for transient data and so on. Okay. So there we go. Oh yeah, bulk configuration. Now, of course, what, so I'll just show you over here. Make this smaller. Don't need this now. We can see the data is coming in. Make this guy bigger. Come on. So what I'll do is let's talk about making this guy run as, we'll run as a service in a bit. To run the service, I just need to install as a Windows service. There's nothing to it. But I'll do some bulk configuration. So what I'll do here with the archive is let me just destroy it. So I'll go File, Close and Delete. Okay, goodbye archive. Here are the items we're actually storing. I will go right-click. Let's export them. I'll export them to a CSV and put them on the desktop. So I'll go Save. So this is the information. I have a lot more information I can do, but this is the information I'll take. There we go. Oh, and by the way, forgot to point out, remember, I'm no longer sending data to MQTT, which is why these guys are now red, because we're no longer publishing. So the subscriber already knows that all of these items are dead. Just close this. Okay, so let me I'll export it this way, actually. Same thing, but there we go. I will save. And I'll save it to the desktop, as you can see here. Save. And I will close this. Now, the reason this is important is because if I start up OPC Expert right now, remember I saved the CSV, but when OPC Expert starts up, there is nothing here, right? There is no information, and I want to do some bulk configuration. So this is just a CSV that I can open with Notepad. So here we go. This is what it looks like, but it's much nicer if I open it up with Excel. So open it up with Excel, specifically formatted. There we go. Okay, so this is what it looks like. So for bulk item configuration, we can see there's the prog ID, the URL, there's the item ID, the user-friendly name, the data type, and so on. So what I'll do from here is I will actually, let me get rid of, I'll get rid of underscore I4. So I'll get rid of underscore I4 and I'll add one more just to see, just so you see. So yeah, I'll get rid of underscore I4. So I will delete this this row. So I will delete the row. So no more I4, and I will insert a row. So there we go, we're inserting a row. I could have copied it, yes, I know. But actually I'll take this one here and I will add another one. So there we go. So what I'll do now is I will, so here's another item. It's called triangle. And there we go. So we are going to see, I'm going to save this. So yes. Okay, so what we will see is that underscore I4 is gone from our list in OPC Expert, and instead we have triangle. And of course, you can take out a whole bunch of items, you can add thousands of items, whatever you want. So there we go. If I open up OPC Expert like before, it's going to open up with nothing. So what I'll do is I'll take this file. In fact, here, I'll open up OPC Expert just to show you. We're getting nothing. Everything is fresh. So I'll take this file and I could import it, or I can just drag it and drop it. There we go. And here are all the items again, right? So we don't see underscore I4. And we should see, there's triangle right there. And we can see that OPC UA should get up and running right away. We're getting updates. Interesting. Looks like the OPC server is having a little bit of problems. I will restart that OPC server. Let's let me try and connect again and see, maybe it will like this more. Interesting. Okay. Interesting issue on the server. Whatever. But what we're seeing now is the data is coming in actually very, very nicely. Of course, we have all the data types. So we can do this for mass configuration quite easily, actually. There we go. There's our information, and I will make, let me go and publish it again. Right click. MQTT. And it is 34.235.202.150. put in the username and the password. By the way, those of you that want to play around, you can actually also connect to test.mosquito.org. The only reason I'm not using this one right here is because people use it as an experiment and they don't necessarily treat it very nicely, so sometimes it misbehaves. So it makes it a little bit difficult to test if you don't know what you're doing or what to expect. In any case, let's just make sure. Connection, yeah, connection's okay. I will start it. So it's going to set up the MQTT. There we go. I will start it. And it should connect. So here we go. And it's going to be publishing. So with this way, we can publish a lot of data, and I mean a huge amount of data to the internet. Okay, once again, I will make this smaller. And you can see that we're actually sending we're sending all of the data. So we'll just make the columns a little bit smaller so you can see more of this. There we go. There's the buffer. Okay, back in OPC Expert, as a subscriber, we'll open this up. This time it remembers that we had a broker. So we open up entire network. There's the computer. There's the broker. We open it up. And what we should see in here is Sparkplug V, OPC01, that's the computer. And here we, you know what, I will, here are our items. And sure enough, there's triangle. And we're getting that information all over again. There we go. So we're actually getting all of the data once again. So there we go. What we've done now is we created an archive. Sorry, an archive. We're sending data via MQTT. What I want to show you here, just as a last thing, if you want to actually run this as a service, so you go Tools, Install as a Windows Service. In this case, we'll use a system account. So all of this, I should have shown this. So there's Task Manager, details. So there is the archive server, Sparkplug B, OPC Expert. You can see the services being set up here. There it is. Now it's running as a Windows service. And you can see there's the archive running as a system account. Now, what's cool here is this is really just a GUI. So even when I close it, the archive server keeps running. So the archive server keeps running. And you can see we're still getting data right here, even though this archive server, even though there's nothing on the screen, it's running as a system account, just to prove that it really is this guy. I will kill it. As soon as I kill it, we realize, oh no, updates are done. And remember, this is all from the internet. You can see the service restarted over here, and we're getting data again. So pretty cool stuff. All right. So that is the that's what's actually going on here, folks. I've answered a lot of questions that you had here. Please keep the questions coming. Let me just do a couple more, a few more slides, and then we will get back into. I'll go back to your questions. So remember, we left off at the demonstration here, where I showed you getting data from a controller via OPC to OPC Expert. We publish data to an MQTT broker out on the internet, and then we sent data to OPC Expert right here. So this guy was a subscriber. And if anybody needs any help doing this, we can sure we can sure help you out. Okay, so troubleshooting. What do you do? Well, I've got a couple of applications for you. Everything is free. You can download OPC Rescue, do your security audits. You can download OPC Expert from opcexpert.com, www.opcexpert.com. So everything I did here, you can do on your own. OPC Expert enables you to trend, to bridge, to tunnel, archive. So there are many, many, many things OPC Expert can do. In this particular webinar, we talked about these two, about OPC, UA, we saw getting data from OPC Classic. There is IoT, MQTT, Sparkplug-B. So it enables you to do all of this. Now, for some hands-on learning, and we do all of this in class as well. We have hands-on examples. You can actually configure these things yourself. You can earn your certified OPC professional designation. You can attend one of our hands-on workshops where you can configure DCOM, OPC UA. We get examples on MQTT, so you're doing IoT and so on. You can troubleshoot these OPC systems, make sure that everything is secure. And you get a couple of computers that you configure yourself and you troubleshoot all the problems on your own. Now, these classes, remember, there is no travel. Obviously, there's no travel these days. So we're doing all of this remote. It's interactive. There's a live instructor. These are live remote classes. We provide you with remote computers. You control all of them. It's actually particularly useful, really cool. Really nice way to do this. We've got public classes. We've got private training. You can take a look at the dates at www.opcti.com. Now, last slide here. What you're going to get. So 4 things. You'll get a copy of the webinar, of this webinar recording. You'll get a link if you want to download OPC Expert. You'll get a link to a bunch of short videos showing you MQTT examples, how to publish, and how to subscribe. If you want to go there right now, before you get the email, just go to opcexpert.com/MQTT. opcexpert.com/MQTT. You'll see all the videos. You can go and grab the download, and you'll get an invitation to our next webinar titled OPC to SQL. So here we did OPC to MQTT, but you'll see OPC to SQL. So again, this is the end of our formal part of the webinar. I will stay longer and answer the specific questions that you ask. So just bear with me if you ask specific questions. If you have more questions, please go ahead and ask. Just a few more words here. I hope you found this webinar useful. So please come back to our website and look for other webinars at opcti.com. So let me get back to the questions that you asked that I did not answer during the webinar. So these are the last questions that came here. All right. So Nicholas, how much data can the buffer hold? As big as your hard drive. John, and this was with respect to your question was with respect to the buffer. Okay, John, you're asking a question here. Can you publish items with an alias name? For example, I want to turn an existing tag with diverse names. Yes, absolutely. You can give different names, and an easy way to do that, really easy way. You probably don't want to use the GUI to do it because it's kind of a pain. But here you can actually see. And this is a good example with this particular OPC UA server we're using, because these are the item IDs. So these are the item IDs, but the name we're publishing is right here. This is the name. So if I say, for example, Randy value, then that's what we will see in the subscriber. So really easy way to do that. Hope that answered your question, John. Carrie, while pushing data to the cloud, what is the pricing model for the cloud service? Is it based on one price per point? So what OPC Expert does, just so you understand, what OPC Expert does is it can push data to the cloud. It can, more importantly, it pushes data to an MQTT broker, which could be in the cloud, or it pushes data to Azure or to Amazon. When you push the data to Amazon or to Azure or to MQTT brokers, whatever, you're bound by their pricing. It's whatever they charge. We don't charge you. So there's no charge for OPC Expert. OPC Expert just does that. There is no per point pricing. So you can do this as much as you want. Now, if you're setting up the MQTT server on your own, we can help you do that. Then I said server, I meant broker. You can actually do that on your own. It won't cost you anything. So, Kier, I hope that answers your questions. You can set this up at your own factory, or you can use existing infrastructure like Microsoft Azure or AWS or whatever. There are lots of companies that are doing this now. Molly, will OPC Expert's archive, store, and forward functionality work with MQTT servers which don't support Spark-Plug-B? Well, this is actually very interesting. So, for example, Microsoft does not support Spark-Plug-B. They support MQTT, but not Spark-Plug-B. So yes, with Microsoft, we do Azure, and it's their format. But if you're not using Spark-Plug-B, you need to tell OPC Expert what exactly to do. So it makes Spark-Plug-B enables you to describe this store and forward data. So if you want to use something under the Spark-Plug-B, let us know, and we'll take a look at what you have, because they actually have to be able to support this format. But Molly, we can sure work with you to see what you need. But again, Spark-Plug-B, when you hear of MQTT for automation, make sure you're either looking at, for example, Azure, or you're looking at MQTT. MQTT support is really what you need to make this useful for automation. Spark-Plug-B on its own MQTT on its own without Spark-Plug-B is not particularly useful for automation. Jean-Louis, in case using MQTT on a local host, what could be the maximum update rate? For example, 1,000 or 10,000 items. So this is really interesting. So you're asking about the maximum update rate. That really depends on your resources. This isn't something it's not a limitation imposed by OPC Expert. OPC Expert doesn't care. Neither does MQTT, by the way. They don't care. This is really limited by your resources, your CPU, the amount of memory, the bandwidth you're using. So it's not limited by OPC Expert. It's not limited anywhere. John, can you publish when the value changes instead of periodic? Yeah, actually, John, that's interesting. What you're seeing when we're publishing data, so let me do this. Oh, in fact, I don't even need to bring this into the real-time data, because we're running as a service. And now it's actually opening up, and the real-time data, there it goes. But I actually don't need this. What you're seeing here, all of the data is being published on data change. So it's only when the item changes is when you actually get the data. And that really, really reduces the amount of information that's being sent. So John, it really reduces the amount of information sent. Troy, how secure is MQTT? Well, that's kind of a can of worms, but you can actually make this quite secure with TLS, for example. You can make it secure with using certificates, but I won't go into security so much because of all of the, I guess the question is, what is security? So let me not go into this now, but rather to say, yes, it can be made very, very secure. It's pretty cool, actually. And if you have specific questions on security, and one of the reasons I don't really want to get into security is, of course, everybody's going to say, oh, well, this is more secure, this is less secure. Doesn't matter. As you can see, in fact, let me show you here. Just some of the features for MQTT. For security, you can see it's got a username. It can use username, password, TLS, certificates. What specifically you want to see? Well, that all depends on you. And actually, MQTT and Spark-Plug-B have really nice features. that you can actually have user accounts and limit people. So you can limit people what they can do. All right, we have time for another couple of questions. I'll answer those, and then we'll finish the webinar. We're at 46 minutes here. Recommended resources for MQTT security, best practices, and vulnerabilities. I think I better answer that question on my own offline, but there's so much available for MQTT, a lot of sites, and of course we help you with that as well. But we're not the only company that does this. There are lots and lots and lots of companies that are doing this. Troy, you're talking about tunneling, and you're looking at potentially replacing this with MQTT. Yes, absolutely. So yes, you can do that. You can replace tunneling with MQTT. MQTT, you can think of it as a form of tunneling, if you will. It enables you to do some pretty cool things. But Troy, this actually brings me to the question, which is actually a pretty cool question, which is to say, what's better, MQTT or OPC? OPC UA, OPC DA, which one is better? For that, we have to scratch our beard, sit back, and give a nice answer, which is, it depends. It really depends on what you're going to do. So MQTT is not the answer for everything. But guess what? Neither is OPC UA or OPC DA. There's no answer for everything. MQTT has its own advantages and disadvantages. So does OPC UA and OPC Classic. You know, people are saying, well, one is always better than another, or well, I think a little bit misguided. In any case, both have their advantages and disadvantages, and they depend on the situation. All right, everybody. So with that, let me end the webinar. So once again, thank you for coming to the webinar. Let me just once again, last thing here. We will send you an email with a copy of this with a link to this webinar recording. You'll get a link to download OPC Expert. A link to where you can get a whole bunch of videos on MQTT. So you'll see some MQTT examples, publishing and subscribing. You can also go to opcexpert.com/MQTT, and we will also send you an invitation to our next webinar, which is OPC to SQL next month. We'll show you how to archive real-time data inside Microsoft SQL. You can create automated reports. You can do all of your analysis in Microsoft SQL, but that's what's actually going on. So there we have it, everybody. Listen, I thank you all for coming to the webinar. If you have any questions on MQTT, please go ahead and send us questions. There is I'll show you just my information here at the very end. There we go. There's my contact information, if you'd like, phone number. So that's me. But feel free, download, give it a try. If you have any questions, we will help you out. So with this, everyone, good luck. Thanks again. And I hope to see you in the next webinar for OPC to SQL. Thanks again, everybody. Bye-bye.